Today, I'll be explaining how difficult it can be for a lot of people to come out of lockdown with the restrictions easing, as even though it is a welcome change for a lot of people, it can, believe it or not, be overwhelming for many. So, to that end, I'll be giving you a few tips on how to cope with what a lot of people are starting to call the new normal. Greetings, my name is Nigel Mayo and this is my channel, Salad Cream Boy. If you're finding me for the first time, this channel is devoted to improving the mental state of its viewers. So, without any further ado, let's begin, shall we? For many of us, the gradual ease of lockdown brings opportunities that have been longed for, even if it's a social distance, to see friends, play sports, resume contact with family in real space and get back to the work that we value. But for many of us, the changes we've all been waiting for can be difficult for our mental health. And for many of us, the prospect of coming out of lockdown when there is still debate over the science supporting it can be a real worry. This may especially apply to those who are more vulnerable and those of us who have mental health concerns. We should prepare for the fact that the end of lockdown might just be as hard for us as it was at the beginning. It took us a lot of time to find ways to cope with the lockdown, so we should also expect that it would take time to find our way out of it. Because everyone's situation is unique, it's really important not to judge what other people are doing. Everyone is facing uncertainty and challenges, and we have no choice but to move through it the best we can. So what are those challenges and what can we do about them? Fear and anxiety are quite possibly the most common emotional responses any of us will feel as we approach the release of lockdown. Finding a way to pull ourselves through lockdown took a lot out of us emotionally, and we may have found that place that lets us cope. And quite honestly, we might not want to leave that place behind just yet. Many of us are scared of getting sick or passing the infection on to loved ones as the risk increases through interaction. But don't worry, this is a normal response. However, risk can be reduced by following the guidelines. Every time we go back to something, it is going to feel unusual or even scary. We might even feel nervous or anxious about it. That might be due to not having been in this situation for a while and we've forgotten how it feels, much like going to work. It might be because things have changed because of the pandemic and routines have changed, like one-way systems and queue setting to shops. It's important to know that these feelings are reasonable and to expect them. It's only by building up tolerance gently that we can move through these fears. We might feel angry or frustrated at other people's behaviour and feel the urge to rush to judgment or make comments on social media that reflect our anxiety. Yes, it's important to share concerns with people that we trust, but also bear in mind that you can't control the behaviour of others and that commenting online can quite quickly lead to unpleasantness. If you can, express your frustration quickly and privately with someone you trust, and then just let it go. If we hold on to things, we get pulled into rumination where we can chew over things in our head. For many of us, the pandemic has increased our anxiety or made existing mental health issues worse. Of course, it may take longer to adjust to the necessary changes. For example, one-way systems in shops, blocking off safe exit routes, or wearing face masks can trigger traumatic flashbacks or panic attacks because of the sensation of not being able to breathe. If possible, take things at your own pace, but try to challenge yourself to try something different each day or even every couple of days. It's very easy to allow the seclusion that was necessary in lockdown to become deliberate isolation as lockdown ends. Celebrate all your wins, no matter how big or small, and try to keep note of what you're achieving. For many people, lockdown has been relatively quiet and isolated. Coming back into shops, traffic, transport and work might lead to sensory overload. It can lead to you feeling overwhelmed by sights, sounds or smells. Headphones might be a good way to reduce some of that by helping you focus and creating a distraction with calls, music, podcasts and audiobooks. Control what can be controlled. There are a lot of things that you can't control that cause fear and anxiety, but there are some things that you can manage or plan for. Having an action plan for managing things you might find difficult can help. Pace yourself. Recognizing that you need to go at the right pace for you is important. Don't let others bully or pressure you into doing things that you don't want to do. But try not to let that be an excuse to not push yourself either, especially when it comes to reconnecting with friends safely. Do it when the rules allow, and do it at a time that is right for you. It can obviously be hard to let others move forward without you. Maybe your child wants to see friends or needs to return to work, but you can't. It's important to discuss concerns with those close to you, but also allow others space to move at their own pace too. Build up tolerance. Try doing some things that challenge you every day, or even every few days. Don't beat yourself up if something doesn't go the way you want it to, but still keep at it. Keep a note of things that you've achieved, enjoyed, and surprised yourself doing. Vary your routines. Try and vary your routines so you see different people and encounter different situations. For example, if one supermarket makes you nervous, why not try another? If a walk at one time of day is very busy, try mixing walks at different times, one at busy times and one at quieter times. Talk to work. Many workplaces are allowing more flexible working even if people need to return. If you are finding it hard to get to work or do particular tasks or activities because of your anxiety or fear, speak to your manager or colleague you trust if it feels right. If you have or had longer term mental problems, you may be entitled to reasonable adjustment period as a disabled person under the Equality Act. Even if you haven't disclosed before, if it feels safe to do so, just do it, it may benefit you. There has been a lot of talk of new normal. But normal is changing, and uncertainty and managing risk is going to be the reality for the foreseeable future. This is not something that's comfortable for many of us, particularly when we're only just about coping with our mental health. So for most of us, new normal for most of us will mean what we need to get through the day or even the week. It's going to be difficult to predict what the rest of the year is going to look like, and with so much of the media talking about possibilities and stages without certainty, it's easy to get caught up in what ifs. It can help to focus on the things that we've learned and achieved in the last few months and even up to the last year. Most of us have been tested in ways that we never imagined and have passed those tests and found new ways to manage or even flourish. For most of us, lockdown has challenged our values and what is important to us. The lives, the values and the attitudes that we had last March might not be the ones you want to return to this July, and there may be opportunities for us to make positive changes in our lives as well. Focus on the present. You can only do your best with what you have today. With regulations changing frequently and lots of conflicting media discussions, try and keep the focus on the moment. Mindfulness meditation is one way of bringing your mind back to the present moment. Bring things that are certain back into focus. Whilst a lot of things are uncertain at the moment, there are also things to be hopeful about. Try to record and appreciate the good things as they happen and take the opportunity to reset and relax. Talk to people that you trust. It's important to talk about how you feel. Don't dismiss your concerns or judge yourself too harshly. You may also be able to find your tribe online, but also try and get outside perspectives too. As we move out of lockdown, it's going to be possible to start picking up our social lives again, albeit with changes for the foreseeable future. Some of us are desperate to do so, but others will be nervous about it or unable to do so because of their situation. If you're part of a social group doing an activity together, try and plan for ways for people who aren't ready for face-to-face meetings to still take part. So the reality might be that we've become very comfortable in our own space and with our own company in lockdown. It has been intense in all sorts of ways, and we might really have to push ourselves to reconnect with people and overcome initial awkwardness. Whether it's knowing how to insist on social distancing with friends and relatives, knowing where you have to wear a mask, or feeling odd not stopping to chat in the street with people. Many of us are keen to get it right and worried about slipping up. It's all new, so just doing your best to follow the rules is enough for now. That also goes for our children's friendships as well. Many of our kids have been desperate to see their friends, but all families are trying to make sense of the changes as they come, and it's important to make an extra effort to pick up friendships, especially if schools aren't back. If you're shielding or in a vulnerable group, it's likely that others around us are starting to emerge from lockdown and start to do things that we miss. We may feel more isolated and less able to resist the pressure to reduce lockdown measures. There's a real risk that employers, schools, business and friends and family will be less able to relate and support you as the lockdown releases for others. It takes considerable emotional labour to keep reminding people why you can't participate or follow the same rules as shielded people. And of course there's a penalty in terms of guilt to be paid by many. Our working lives were changed enormously when lockdown started. Whether we stayed working as a key worker, worked from home, were placed on furlough or lost our jobs, as lockdown eases, working lives will change again, and some people will be looking for new work. For many of us, coming out of lockdown is not a choice. Across the country, people are being called into work, even when the official advice is to work from home wherever possible. For many of us, this isn't possible, and the prospect of return carries with it the need to weigh up the potential safety risks to ourselves and the families, with the need to earn money, restart the economy, and or provide services to others. During lockdown, those of us with caring responsibilities have supported our families. For carers and parents, returning to work is likely to provide a distance that might be much welcomed and needed, but it can also prove emotionally challenging when family closeness has been such a support for so many during lockdown. With schools either closed or only open part of the time, for some pupils up to the end of summer break at least, parents are facing a longer term and are needing to cover childcare, assist with schoolwork and make decisions about whether and when to send their children back. Parents obviously want to do right by their children, but many are now under pressure by the work to either return to the office or to resume some sort of productivity and engagement, which obviously may not fit. A similar situation arises for unpaid workers. Perhaps the physical or mental health of the person they care for has deteriorated during lockdown and their own needs may have changed. This will mean new assessments and changes in service provisions. Grief is something many of us have experienced during lockdown. Many people will have faced the loss of someone close during the past year. And with attendance at funerals restricted and non-socially distanced companies only recently available to specific groups, this has been undoubtedly hard. The upside though is that as we start to move out of lockdown, it will be possible to see people again and to provide support to those close to us who have been bereaved. Although at the moment it must be socially distanced and cannot involve a hug unless you are a single parent with a child aged under 18 or a single person living alone who has formed a bubble with another household. So, if you're after any further information about any of the topics that I've mentioned in this video, I've taken the liberty of adding a few links in the description below. So, if you got any value from this content, then I'd like you to consider liking this video, subscribing to my channel for any further advice on improving your mental state, and comment below for any further feedback, and if you got any questions on anything I've mentioned in this video or anything on my channel. It really does mean the world to me and all of your favourite content creators. It supports us and it helps grow our channels, which in turn helps us bring us the content that you love. Thank you so much for watching, and just remember, we're all in this together because, well, it's like I always say, at the end of the day, it gets dark.